With Niche coming out on Switch today, you may have taken the leap and bought it, but now you find yourself navigating a world that depends on your ability to create the perfect genetic species that can overcome all hurdles life throws at you. Welcome to Indie Game Guides, and today we present to you our beginner guide to Niche. Let's start off by talking about the UI. Now, after selecting one of your animals, you can see all kinds of information in the bottom left corner. Now, beside the obvious sign for its gender and the buttons that will lead to the DNA part of the game that we'll go over later, let's just start with the basics. Now, below his portrait, the number of green dots are the actions you can undertake each day with this animal. Now, as a baby, they won't have one, but as they get older, this increases up to 3. Now, since your animals can only take so many actions per day, it's really important to be efficient in your steps. To know at which point of its lifespan the animal is, you need to check the top bar out. Now, a white bar will start running from left to right as the days pass. Now, when it reaches all the way to the end, your animal will die and turn into a pile of bones from age. Now, the first 3 interrupted parts of the bar are the animal's infancy years, and the largest part is naturally its adulthood. Now, what is interesting that it's also your health bar. Now, if your animal takes damage for whatever reason, a red bar will show up, but this one will move from right to left. Now, if the white bar, the animal's age, meets the red bar, which indicates the damage it took, it'll die. So taking damage basically means a reduced lifespan, and that means pick your battles wisely. Now, above the portrait you may also see a Greek letter. Now that says either Alpha, Bravo or Omega. Now these are basically the hierarchy of the pack that you can decide. Now the Alphas are the bosses, the Bravos are in between, and the Omegas are the least liked. Now you can assign whichever rank you want to any kind of animal. There are a few examples of when this is a useful feature. Now, for example, if you have an animal in your pack that you'd like to get rid of, give him the rank of an Omega and have an Alpha banish him from the group. Same thing with food shortages. If you don't have enough food for all your animals, the Omegas won't eat. So make sure to give the animals you really like the Alpha or Bravo rank, but the ones you don't care for the Omega rank. That way there's a reduced chance that you lose the animals you really like. Let's talk about food. Now on the bottom right corner you can find the amount of food pieces the pack has collected so far. Now every day this number will decrease by the amount of animals you have in your pack. So collecting as much food as possible is super important in this game because as with all survival foods, no food means certain death. Now you can collect food by picking up berries from bushes, shaking trees and cracking nuts that have fallen down, digging for worms in the ground, fishing, hunting other animals, and even digging through termite hills. Now to help you find all these things you can cycle through your 3 main senses of hearing, smelling and eyesight. But either way, even if you find for example a termite hill, you probably won't be able to do anything with it because you need to have the right skills for certain ways to collect food. But to explain why you don't have those, we need to talk about DNA. But before we open that major part of the game, I want to quickly mention that you can always hit me up on Twitter or join our Discord if you have additional questions. And if you want to have a vote on which indie games get featured next, be sure to subscribe, because we often organize open questions and do polls to decide which games get a series of guides next. And with that out of the way, let's talk about how DNA works. Way back in the bottom left corner you have 4 buttons. Now the top one will simply tell you how great the animal is at certain things. Now the more points it has for hearing, the better it hears. That's simple enough. But how these are designed, that's something different. For that we go to the second button. Now here you can basically see the DNA strain of the animal. Basically there are 21 different types of genes, and each of which affects a different part of or ability of the nicheling. Now each animal has 2 copies of every gene, and they inherit 1 copy from their mother and 1 from their father. And when they breed, each parent will randomly pass on 1 copy of each gene that they have. Now the system is pretty deep and can be very overwhelming, especially if we start talking about dominant, recessive, codominant and incomplete dominance. So I won't go deeper into it, but I'll leave a link to the fanwiki in the description down below if you want to learn more about it. There you can also see how the game decided which gene becomes active and which don't. But what you mainly need to remember is that not all genes are useful. Now the most common example is a deformed paw. Now that is a gene that will give you no points in any of the categories you saw in the first menu. So there will be no increase to speed, digging or collecting for example. You will want to prevent your future offspring getting one of these useless traits, and for that reason you'd like to prevent breeding with an animal who has these, or abandon any offsprings you have that may have gotten these by breeding. If you don't want to abandon an animal because of one of these genes, you can make use of one of the mutations. Now under the third button you will find 2 empty slots. Now you can select out of the menu all unlocked genes. There will be a 50% chance that the animal will pass these genes to their children instead of one of the genes in its own DNA strain. Now you can use this to possibly prevent a gene from being passed on or ensuring the chances of a gene being passed on. For example, if you have one that is already great and you have unlocked it also during a mutation, then you can heighten the chances to get it in your offsprings. Now to unlock more genes for the mutations, you need to complete certain challenges like swimming 100 times or collecting from certain plants a number of times in the same save. All that information can also be found in the fanwiki that you can find in the description down below. Something we definitely need to talk about are the immunity genes. Now there are 12 kinds of immunity in the game right now, 11 letters and the homeland immunity. It's very important that your animals don't get 2 of these same immunity genes. Now if for example your animal gets immunity gene A from both his father and his mother, he'll get something called a genetic illness. This can't be cured in any way and causes them to live half as long. So instead of 25 days, they'll die after barely 12 days. Now these genetic illnesses are most often a result of interbreeding, so family members mating with each other. Now for this reason it's often a good idea to invite new members into the pack when you come across them by offering them 5 pieces of food. Now I think I'll end the video here before your head bursts with information, but hopefully I have fully prepared you for your biology exam, first steps in niche. And if you found this useful, be sure to give the video a thumbs up, and if you want to see more content like this one, consider subscribing. We publish 3 guides like this every week and would love to get your input in our open questions and polls in the community page. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one. See ya!